Steve Kornacki is at the board with a special guest, someone whose name we just heard in Andrea Mitchell's reporting. Steve?
That's right, Brian. We're with Jeff Weaver. This is the campaign manager for Bernie Sanders. So we've been talking all night, Jeff. We've been talking all night about the delegate math for Bernie Sanders. And so there's the super delegates. Let's forget those. Let's talk about the pledged delegates. First, let's just, what you see here, these are the states to come and the delegates left. But let's set this up for people back home. So based on our NBC math we had coming into tonight, now, the state of Washington, this gets complicated. We haven't added the delegates. You guys won big there. Yeah. Let's estimate you guys are still going to pick up 35 there. We think you came into tonight down about 210 in the pledged delegate category. Now, you're going to lose New York tonight. We're not sure what the exact breakdown is going to be. Tell me if this is fair. Why don't we estimate for the purposes of this conversation, you guys are going to lose 25 delegates net tonight. Okay, so 235. You need to make up 235 pledged delegates in these states with this number of delegates needs. Just take me through what you see here that tells you can erase that.
Well, I mean, I think if you look, I mean, obviously the big state here is California. I mean, a big win there, get you a lot of delegates. Oregon is a state that should be very, very good for the senator. These states, you know, we've won all the states around these states, so these states would seem to be prime territory for the senator. You know, the senator's been increasingly doing well with Latino voters in states across the country. So New Mexico is certainly in play. Indiana, a state that he's going to do well in. It's possible to run all of these states. New Jersey has a lot of delegates. I mean, it's just a lot. If you look at a lot of delegates on the board, 235. I mean, that's only half the number in one state.
Can I ask this? Sure. Like, people look at the demographics of what happened here in New York tonight. This looks like a double-digit loss. You look at the demographics of New Jersey, very similar. And people would say, if you can't come into New York and keep it in single digits there, how do you turn around and do it in New Jersey? Or, for that matter, Maryland. Maryland has the largest African-American population of any state in the North. This is a campaign that struggled to break 30% with African-Americans.
Well, I mean, for one thing, look, the secretary and her people should be congratulated for their victory tonight. There's no doubt about it. But she had a special relationship with the people of New York. She was elected here twice as a U.S. senator. We always knew this was going to be a very tough state, closed primary. So the fact that, you know, she did very, very well in New York doesn't necessarily mean the same thing in these other states. The rest of the New England states we should do well in. Again, New Jersey is a state where I think we are doing very well right now.
When you look a week from tonight, we're going to be talking about Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Rhode Island. With the loss in New York, with the 235 or so pledged delegate gap, is it fair to say you are in must-win territory in all of these states?
No, I don't think you have to win all of them. But look, I think you have to win. You know, certainly Pennsylvania becomes a very, very important state in this process. We're doing very well there. Certainly our internal polls and some of the are much better than some of the public polls that are out there. So we should do very, very well there. You know, when we get past the 26th, you go into May, you got one state a week. I think we have the possibility of winning every single state in that month, every single week in that month. And then again, on June 5th or June 7th is that's the big day. You know, we're going to have New Jersey, California, and a bunch of other states.
Let me just ask you this, because the Clinton people would come back with this. We're looking at all the delegate math here. So let's say you somehow did erase the 235 and you got ahead in the pledge again. What you hear from the Clinton people is, she's still winning the popular vote. You guys want to be able to tell the superdelegates, hey, the people are on our side. You have no choice but to do it as well. The Clinton people say, even if you do that, the popular vote still goes to Hillary Clinton.
Well, right. But, of course, that popular vote doesn't include what's happened in all the caucus states. So those votes are not included in that popular vote total, which brings down the number substantially. And then when we get to the convention, look, at the end of the day, the Democrats are going to have to decide who they want to elect in terms of who's going to be the best in November. And clearly the polls are almost unanimous now that Bernie Sanders is a much more electable candidate in November. It's very important, I think, for Democrats. You know, the other thing that's not that you haven't pointed out is we picked up a number of delegates. A lot of these caucus states have a sort of iterative process where there's a county convention and a state convention, and we've done a very good job at picking up additional delegates at each one of those levels. We picked up delegates in Nevada. We're going to pick up delegates, I believe, in Iowa. Washington State, even though we won 70-30, the outcome in delegates eventually could become 80-20, or I mean, even in a really big turnout in Washington State, we could sweep the delegates in Washington State. So there's a lot of opportunities to pick up delegates in the caucus process as well.
Let me ask you this, though. Is this a fair statement? The popular vote and the pledged delegate count. If you are not leading at least one of those counts when June 7th finishes up and we finish this primary process, you don't have a claim to get those superdelegates to flip their sides. Are you still going to try to flip superdelegates if you're not winning one of those?
I don't think that that's the case. Look, we're going to go to the convention. It is extremely unlikely that either candidate will have the requisite number of pledged delegates to get to this number, right? So it is going to be an election determined by the superdelegates. And superdelegates are largely elected officials, party leaders.
They're overwhelmingly right now with Hillary Clinton. So the question is, if you guys can't come to them and say, we won the pledged delegate count, you have to honor the will of the people. If you can't come to them and say, we won the popular vote, you have to honor the will of the people. If these superdelegates already want to be with Hillary Clinton and they can say, hey, she won the popular vote, hey, she won the pledged delegate vote, how can you flip them after the primaries?
Well, because they're going to want to win in November. And if the polling continues to show that Bernie Sanders is a much stronger candidate in the general election, and that's for a few reasons, right? He brings a lot of young people into the process who might otherwise participate. He is extremely popular with independent voters. If you look at when you have open caucuses and open primaries, he wins independents 65-35, 70-30, and in November, only about a quarter of the population is Democrats. If you can't create a coalition with independent voters, you can't win the White House, you can't win the Senate, you can't bring in additional people into the House. So this is what has to be built in November. It has to be Democrats along with independents to defeat the Republicans. And Bernie Sanders is the candidate.
Because you know as well as I do, if June 7th comes and goes and Hillary Clinton has won the pledged delegate count in the primaries and she's won the popular vote, there are going to be calls from her campaign and calls from a lot of influential delegates in this country for you, the Sanders campaign, to make a decision to unite around her. You're saying instead of that, you will spend those months, those weeks in the summer trying to flip superdelegates to Bernie Sanders before the convention.
At this point, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Jeff Weaver, campaign manager for Bernie Sanders. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Back to you guys.
That was remarkable. Jeff Weaver, it's a kindness of you to be here to walk us through that, sir. Thank you for being here.
Happy to do it.
For stopping by. Thanks to Steve Kornacki as well.